a six pack, sit back and prepare to laugh. It's Drunk-Nerds podcast. Grab a six pack, sit back and prepare to laugh. It's Drunk-Nerds podcast. Grab a six pack, sit back and prepare to laugh. It's Drunk-Nerds podcast. Grab a six pack, sit back and prepare to laugh. It's Drunk-Nerds podcast. Sit back and back and back and grab a six pack, sit back and back and back and grab a six pack, sit back and back and back and grab a six pack, sit back and back and back and grab a six pack, sit back and prepare to laugh. It's Drunk-Nerds podcast. Grab a six pack, sit back and prepare to laugh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 198 of the Drunk-Nerds podcast. I'm your host, as always. I am Tyler, and joining me, we have my good friend, the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. We have Gables. How are you?
You know, Tyler, I'm doing pretty good for myself. More frustration at the workplace, but other than that, I'm still here, still kicking. How have you been doing?
Doing all right. A little hungover today. Decided to celebrate St. Patty's Day yesterday. Did not go as well as wanted. Got a swift reminder why I don't go downtown and also don't drink liquor. I'm just gonna say this: I bought a $150 bottle of vodka. That's all I need to remind me not to do things, not to go downtown. So, other than that, the man is returning all the way from Mexico. We have Troy. What's up, buddy?
What's the business? I've had a pretty decent week. I mean, it's been pretty hectic. I got back from PAX on Monday night and immediately had to go into scramble mode to take care of business that didn't get done before I left. I tried to get all my school stuff kind of squared away. There was actually an exam, so I flew out on Wednesday afternoon, and there was an exam that I was supposed to take on Wednesday morning, but the professor didn't have it up at 6 a.m. like he had promised. So I couldn't take the exam, but luckily, since it was his mistake, I actually was able to take it when I got back. But then there was quizzes and a bunch of other stuff. So it's been a pretty hectic week. I still have to do all my write-ups for everything that I actually saw at PAX too. So I'll probably have somebody breathing down my neck about deadlines on that in the not too distant future. But luckily, it's spring break, so I've got time to try and knock some of that stuff out.
Nice.
Nice.
So far everything's good. Weather's great. I narrowly missed the blizzard that struck the East Coast. I think 4 hours after I took off and flew out of Newark is when that blizzard was supposed to hit. As I was standing at the airport, I was watching flights get canceled left and right. So I was very fortunate and glad that I did not get stuck at the airport for 2 or 3 days, because I think they're still kind of backed up, like trying to get all that stuff cleared out. And that would have been really unfortunate.
Yeah. Real quick, Justin is not here this week. He was one of the people I hung out with last night, and he is definitely in a rough spot right now. So that's the reason he's out this week. But anyways,
get well soon.
You went to yes. Hopefully he can sleep that off tonight and be okay tomorrow. But anyways, you mentioned you were gone last week. You're at PAX East.
I was indeed.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about PAX East? Goods, bads, what you saw, all that.
Yeah, PAX East was pretty good. So I flew out of El Paso and landed in Newark, New Jersey, and then so I stayed the night with Michael Miller, the owner of Proven Gamer, and then we kind of all drove up to Boston. I got to do the whole. It was pretty neat because I'd never been to New York City before. So he's like, well, let's go downtown. So we went to Times Square, which was pretty dope. I kind of wandered around Times Square. I kind of suspected before I got there that it was going to be my idea of it in my mind was it was a lot like the Vegas Strip, which it absolutely was a lot like the Vegas Strip if the buildings were a lot closer together and a whole lot taller. But yeah, I mean, otherwise you still got, people all around you trying to sell you stuff or, get you to go to a show. I guess the only thing that was missing was the people with the little cards with the naked girls on them that are, trying to get you to get the escorts. But yeah, it was pretty dope. One thing that I thought was funny is so you have your street performers, the people who, you take pictures with dressed as Elmo or whatever the hell. So they have a law now where, like, I guess it didn't used to be this way, but recently, where, like, they have these green squares on the sidewalk, and those people have to stay within those green squares. Like, they can't go out, beyond that to go and solicit people and stuff. which is created a pretty interesting thing where I got there around lunch hour, and there's people like sitting around Times Square eating lunch and stuff, and then there's these street performers. You got your Naked Cowboy, which is like a Times Square staple, but they're all in these little green squares on the sidewalk, and it was almost like a weird like a zoo. Like you're hanging out watching these street performers, and it's like these people are sitting here eating, their meals and just watching the street performers, and it was kind of an interesting thing. I went to the Nintendo store in Rockefeller Plaza, which was pretty dope. That was a really neat store. I really enjoyed it. And it was funny too because I was wearing a Zelda t-shirt at the time, and so we were walking through Times Square, and there's this guy who's normally, he's trying to promote his comedy club or whatever, and so he calls me from like 30-40 feet away. He's like, "Hey, Zelda." He's like, "You get a chance to play that new Zelda game?" I was like, "Yeah, definitely." He's like, "Is it worth getting a Switch for?" And like, it's just like, I just ended up having this like total like emergent conversation with this guy on the street in Times Square about the new Zelda game. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. One thing I haven't even left New York yet, but one thing I noticed about, because I'm a West Coast guy, born on the West Coast, live on the West Coast. It's definitely a different frame of mind. But one thing I noticed about New York City was it was simultaneously the most abrupt and in-your-face place, but also like the most cordial. Like it was weird because people are like real like quick to like honk horns, like they're constantly honking horns and yelling at each other on the streets and stuff like that. But then also like the people were just like totally polite. It was the weirdest thing ever.
They're so used to it.
Yeah,
does not sound like New York at all.
It was pretty crazy.
Well, at least what you hear.
Yeah, that's the thing is I'd never been, but I've known people from the East Coast. My mom grew up in New York, upstate New York though, so it's a little different. But it was interesting. So then we ended up in Boston. We had to stop along the way to take a picture in front of the WWE headquarters in some place in Connecticut.
Stanford.
Yeah, I'm not a WWE fan, but since the Proven Gamer also has the Smart Marks podcast, which is the wrestling podcast, Mike wanted me to take a picture in front of it to kind of troll those guys, because actually one of the hosts, Jeremy, was supposed to come with us to PAX East, and then he couldn't at the last minute, so we're supposed to troll. So I did the whole Hulk Hogan pose in front of the WWE building there, which was, I guess, kind of cool. I guess, like I said, I'm not a big wrestling fan, so it didn't leave me awestruck like it should, some other people. So yeah, we got into Boston, and PAX was dope. So yeah, but the thing was, it was like, I think the day before we got there was like, it was like in the 50s or 60s. And then the day we were there, actually the night as we rolled in, like it got ugly. Like cold front rolled in, and it was snowing on Friday morning. Pretty bad. And I was ill prepared for it. Like, being from the desert, I had jeans, t-shirts, I had a couple hoodies, and I had athletic shoes. And when I woke up and went to PAX the first morning, it was like 10 degrees outside.
Oh shit.
Which was pretty bad. And that was the air temperature. I think the wind chill was way worse because it was pretty windy. But yeah, PAX was good. It was my second PAX. I went to PAX South during the inaugural year. But this was my first PAX being there on a media badge, which is kind of completely different. So I had, set appointments to see devs and stuff like that. And they had like a special thing on Friday morning where we were able to go out on the show floor like an hour before it opened to the public and kind of walk around. One of the devs actually had a breakfast for, all the media and stuff, which was pretty dope. So I got coffee and a bagel and stuff. Yeah, other than that, it was like it was super crowded, which I kind of expected. And then, you gotta go and meet all your appointments. So my days were pretty full. Like I was 3 days of just like up early to bed late. And then you add in the daylight savings time starting on Sunday, which also threw a huge monkey wrench in that whole thing. Yeah, do you want me to get into the details of like the things that I saw there? I kind of didn't get out and see a whole lot outside of my appointments because I just like everything was kind of crammed in. So like I walked around and checked out some of the show floor, but for the most part I only played the things I had appointments for. So there was the first one I had was a game from the developers of this game called Soda Drinker Pro. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of that.
The name is familiar. I don't really know much about it.
Wasn't it like an Xbox Live Arcade game or something?
It might be. Yeah, I think it is because I think it uses Kinect support actually. But it's a game. It's a real crazy game. Think of like Frog Fractions. You've heard of Frog Fractions, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's a game that goes places. Like it's a game that like starts out one way and then just kind of really like stands on its head. So this game here that I went to go, it was from the same developers, and I go in, and their whole setup is like this TV, and it's like a church, and so there's this. I think that his name is Bobby something or other. Man, I wish I had my notes, but he's sitting here gesturing and he's talking to me, and so I'm like, okay, cool. Like they're like, oh, what's your name? I told them my name, and they're like, oh, come on back over here. So I go back around the corner because they have like a screen, so the behind there, this guy is in a VR setup. He's wearing a Vive VR, and he's gesturing and stuff. So quickly I realized that he's controlling this preacher that's on stage and stuff. So this game, ostensibly, what I've seen of it is you're basically trying to build up your church. And it's almost like it's weird. Well, he said, you could do it legit, like a regular church, or you could even like go kind of a route, kind of like a cult sort of thing. So like it's kind of your discretion how you play the game. But it's apparently has like rhythm game elements where you're like, looking at your congregation in the eyes to like build up their excitement and stuff like that. And it's supposed to be really complicated. But the thing that kind of gets me is, one, he said that it's a prequel to Soda Drinker Pro, which I thought was really interesting. So it's in the same universe, and so I expect that this game will probably go places as well, far beyond what I was privy to in my short demo there. Also checked out, trying to think of some of the highlights of the games. I checked out this game called Yonder, which will be out pretty soon on the PlayStation 4 and PC. It's aesthetically, it's real similar to Zelda, actually, because I spent so many hours playing Zelda. Like that was pretty much all I did on the flight and everything like that. It's a big open world. You're kind of exploring, but there's no combat, so it's kind of more like a cross between Zelda and like a Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon kind of situation. Where you're going off and kind of doing tasks and collecting things and harvesting things and everything like that. But it was real charming, real nice art style. I liked. It was pretty cool. That's a game that's coming out pretty soon. There was a Space Wars game. I hope it's called Space Wars. It sounds like, yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have my notes with me. I took notes, but it was like a turn-based space combat game. It's a PC game that's free to play. It's turn-based, almost like I likened it to BattleTech if it was with spaceships, and the developer seemed to think that was a very apt comparison. And as somebody who grew up playing BattleTech, as I've previously stated on the show, it was actually pretty quick and easy for me to pick up. Pretty neat. It's going to be free to play. Got a VR demo of Space Pirate Simulator, which is a pretty dope game. I did really well, actually. The group, because we kind of went in groups. That was presented by Newegg, the company that sells PC parts and stuff. That's how I actually built my PC, through Newegg. So they got us all in the room, and everybody got to try the Space Pirate Simulator, and I actually like destroyed everybody on that. Because it's a wave-based thing. I don't know if you've seen footage of it, but yeah, like you're standing there and you've got two hands available because you're using the Vive controllers, and so you can. What they recommended was that you use one hand with a shield and then the other hand with the gun, and you could shoot they're like little probes that are flying around, and you can use the shield to block their projectiles and stuff. But I went in there and I immediately put the shield back away and I was dual wielding these automatic weapons, and I'm just shooting this stuff down. I ended up making it to wave 12. I think the only person who came close was somebody who got to wave 10. So I was pretty proud of myself for that. I really kicked some butt.
Nice.
Nice.
It
also looked pretty cool doing it because I ran in there without a shield. The only thing I played kind of what would you call it, spontaneously, as I was walking through trying to find one of my appointments, because I kind of made a habit of locating the booth where the appointment was going to be at like ahead of time, so that I could locate it really quick when the time came to play the game. There was a VR game called Dick's Wild Dick's God, man, I'm sorry I didn't bring my notes with me, but
Sounds like a winner
this was
already.
It was a really weird thing because it was like it's a shooting gallery. It's a VR game, shooting gallery, which is typical of VR games. So you see like all kinds of crazy shooting galleries with like dinosaurs and stuff. This one here was more like a redneck theme, where you're kind of the level that I played was set in like a pond or whatever, and so you got like alligators that are coming at you and like bugs and stuff, and you got these weapons like a shotgun and stuff, and you're trying to shoot them. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, no, that was pretty cool because being on a media badge, it's definitely different because the guy saw me and he's like, oh hey, come check out this game. I was like, well, I'm on my way to an appointment. And he's like, well, swing back by or get a hold of me and we'll set an appointment. Once I found the booth where my appointment was at, I still had like an hour, so I went back and he's like, oh yeah, here, let me get you on next. And I felt really bad because there were these kids that were all waiting in line, and one kid got off of the VR and another kid was ready to grab it from him, and the guy's like, no, I'm gonna have this guy to jump in real quick. And I kind of felt bad. I was like, man, I'm sorry, dudes. I was like, I'll be quick, I promise. I'm just gonna try this game out real fast. It was one of those things, like kind of the keys to the kingdom. Like you walk up with a media badge and all of a sudden you jump lines, which is
don't even know who you work for.
Yeah,
just
which is
go ahead and jump in.
A really
Yoink.
cool experience, but also you kind of feel like a dick. It's like, man, you've been standing in line for God knows how long, and here I am just like jump right in front of you. Especially when I don't have an appointment. Like if I have an appointment, then I feel a little less bad about it. But yeah, it was pretty dope. I played a bunch of other stuff. There was a game called Distance that's it was a Kickstarter. It's coming out real soon. It's like a kind of like Wipeout if it was a real car. And what do they call it? They call it a car survival game. So it's like real Tron-like, and you're running, but then you can basically make the car fly at any point, and you can actually like actively like maneuver the car around, because at some point you actually have to like jump to a different path or whatever. And there's apparently a story involved, which is actually pretty intriguing. They do some really neat things with like the camera and stuff. There's like obstacles like laser beams and saws where you can like actually like hit these laser beams. It'll chop your car in half, but your car will continue going. And as long as you can keep the car in forward momentum and not crash it, like after a few seconds it'll regenerate itself. So it's kind of a really weird dichotomy where you run through these laser grids and it like basically chops your car down into a much smaller form. But as long as you have wheels and forward momentum, like you can keep going and it goes places. It's pretty dope. Yeah, that's it. I did play a bunch of other games that I can't necessarily think off the top of my head. Nothing that stood out heavily. You can probably look out for my write-up that I'll have on Proven Gamer. I'll probably tweet it out and everything like that. But yeah, it was a good time. Like PAX as a media badge was definitely a different experience, but it was really cool. Got to meet a lot of people. I actually met a guy who is... he works for Fox News Radio.
Okay.
And it was really funny because I'm in the media room. So that's another perk of being at PAX on media is they have a media room where you can hang out, and they've got tables and like plugs and stuff. So you can just kind of hang out and chill because there's so much going on. But I'm sitting there eating lunch, and this guy across the table from me, I was like, hey, he's like, what outlet are you here for? I was like, oh, well, I'm here for provengamer.com. I was like, I'm a podcaster, and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, cool. He's all, I'm with Fox News. I know, the political thing, like, and it's really funny because he just went right into it. I was like, man, you got to do this quite a bit, don't you? Like when you're like, hey, I'm with Fox News, and I know the whole political thing and all, but he's like, well, but we're also trying to expand, like, and get into things like, like pop culture and podcasting and stuff like that. So
good luck with
it was
that.
really funny, and I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense, because the target demographic for Fox News is dwindling, by the day, and if you want to stay relevant, you got to keep up with the times. But it was really funny, and I really felt for the guy because he's like, I feel like every time he introduced himself, he's like, oh yeah, and I'm from Fox News, and I know the whole political thing. I was like, man, that's a tough sell, dude.
That's almost
but
like,
it was pretty cool.
It's like, hey, yeah, I'm from Fox News, though, but no, I'm not an asshole, no.
Yeah, that's basically what it was, yeah. It was super interesting. I was like, man, I feel for you, dude, because you're in a place like this, where, there's a bunch of stuff, and it's like, you have to get past that stigma of Fox News as being, all, political and stuff like that. He's like, I know, it's all usually political and stuff, but I was like, man, you got your spiel all down and stuff, but it was pretty neat. Yeah, the whole experience was good. If you guys have any questions, I can definitely answer them. But I feel like I've rambled on long enough.
Oh, you're right. I looked up that Dick Wild game. It's called Dick Wild with an E on the end of Wild.
Yeah.
I was looking at a couple screenshots here. It looks kind of cool. I like the artwork of it though.
So the thing that I noticed a lot is a lot of the devs that I went to go visit were all foreigners. So
Really?
that one they were like British or Scottish even. But which is really ironic because their game is like totally like Southern American, like hoorah, kind of aesthetic to it. One of the games I did see, I got to see the and at the time, there was a game that was supposed to be embargoed.
Right.
That so it ended up being Reservoir Dogs. So there's a
that was
there's
one of
a
our
top
guesses, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a top-down Reservoir Dog game where you basically it's a single-player game, but you can control up to 6 of the characters from the Reservoir Dogs. And how it works is you pick a leader and you go through because it's almost like if you think of like a game like Door Kickers or I'm trying to think of another game that's similar to that where you basically got the map laid out in front of you and you kind of go through and you do the things. So basically you start as a leader and you're running through like a bank heist and you're going in and you do your thing and then but at any point in time you can stop and reverse time. So you reverse time and you switch characters, and so then that first character goes through his routine that you created, but now you got the second character that you can go off and do other things. So you can say with the first character you got surprised by a guard that came through the door on the left. Well, with the second character you can go up there and make sure you're in a position to take out that guard, and you go through all of the characters kind of in rotation like that until you eventually hit a checkpoint, and then the whole thing starts over again. It's really, really interesting. But they were from Spain. So then we got the UK, we got Spain. The Yonder game that I was talking about earlier, they were from Australia. There was a game called Loot Rascals, which is, I think, out now on PlayStation. I actually went to the PlayStation booth for that meeting with the developer, and he was definitely Scottish, I believe. Had a pretty heavy accent, and it kind of played through all the game. All the characters had that same sort of accent. A lot of like foreign developers, and like almost every single one of my meetings was with a foreign developer. There was another game called Death Squared, which is kind of like a puzzle platformer game that's also coming to PlayStation. That developer was from another country. I can't remember offhand where he was from. He was having trouble. He actually asked me to explain the whole trophy thing to him because he didn't understand like the obsession with trophies. And of course, since I was, Proven Gamer, and also the podcast that do on Proven Gamers called Trophy Horrors, so I had to kind of explain to him like the whole obsession with trophies and why, especially platinum trophies, are very important to people, on the PlayStation ecosystem, because all the games that they had made before were like mobile games and some Steam games. But he was kind of perplexed because he'd gotten that question a lot of times, whether or not the game had a platinum trophy. And he's like, why do people care that much about this? Like, I've noticed I've gotten this question so many times. It's like, yeah, it's like a badge of honor. I have to explain to him, well, with the Xbox community, you have achievements, but there's no like top level statistic that tells you how many games you've got all of the achievements in. Like, you could have 5 million, achievement points, gamer score or whatever, but there's no way of knowing how many games you have gotten 100%, whereas with the PlayStation, a platinum trophy means I went and got 100%, trophies in a game. So, I'm sorry, hold on. I apologize.
Yeah, all right.
So it's like if I got 38 platinum trophies, that's 38 games that I've gotten all the achievements in. And he was just really perplexed by this concept. But yeah, it was pretty dope. Any other questions, or you want to move on?
No, I don't really have anything else to say. Well, overall, is this something you'd want to do again, or is this kind of like a one-time thing for you? You think?
Hold on, just a sec. I'm gonna mute the mic.
All right.
Hard coughing.
Sorry about that. So yeah, PAX is definitely cool. It's definitely something I'd like to do again. A big part of the reason why I was there was at networking. So I was trying to get my name out there and kind of find connections. I'm graduating in May, which is like less than 2 months away. So with that comes trying to find a job, and I'd really like to find a job in the gaming industry. So hopefully whatever job I get will actually entail me going to a lot of other events like other PAXs and, maybe E3 and stuff like that. So it was a good experience, definitely, being a part of that whole thing. I liked it a lot.
That's cool, and that's something that I've talked about previously before. But like the ultimate goal for me, one day, is to go to PAX. I don't know, what is it, PAX Main or PAX West? I don't know what they call it now.
Yeah, it's called PAX West now. It used to be PAX Prime.
Is it?
But I think East has actually surpassed it in like attendance, so they kind of rebranded it as PAX West.
Okay, but that's like still the ultimate goal is to one day go there, and then also meet Gables, and then do like a live podcast.
Oh,
There you go.
And that's like before the show's over, whenever it ends, if it ends. That's my ultimate dream.
That's your
is to do
goal
that
for the
one
final
day.
episode of the Drunk Dash Nerds podcast. No, just kidding.
That'd
Just
be it.
kidding.
Yeah, that's actually episode 200. That's the plan for 200. No.
That's like what, 2 weeks away?
Yeah,
it
2
is.
weeks away. Well, we're gonna do next week's show, and then there's gonna be like a 6-month break until
Right.
PAX West.
There you go.
200.
Yeah, well, so I mean, ideally, and I'm kind of like looking for jobs mainly maybe California or Seattle. So if I end up in Seattle, like PAX West will be a super easy thing for me to make happen. Fortunately, like a lot of video game jobs are in the Seattle and or California area, so that'll probably be where I end up, depending on what opportunities exist. I'll go wherever, but that's kind of where I'm hoping to land.
Oh, that's very cool. I hope it'd be cool if you got something like Giant Bomb or
Yeah.
like that.
So yeah, I definitely actually went to the Giant Bomb panel. Actually, it was at the end of the 4-4ing it panel, which Jeff Gersman was on, and I walked up and handed him my card and introduced myself and everything like that, and just said hi. Like I wasn't trying to like be a fanboy or anything, but just let him know, hey, I applied for the open editor position. Here's who I am. Here's what I do, and here's my card.
Nice. Oh, speaking of the Giant Bomb panel, then you had an interesting experience that happened there.
Oh.
Yes. So I'm sorry, my throat. So they had this whole thing where did you guys actually get to watch that panel?
I never did, actually.
I watched your part.
Oh, okay.
I kind of watched little bits and pieces of it.
Did I appear on camera there? Or?
You see the back of your head.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So at some point, I remember during one of the podcasts, Vinny was talking about how small the Switch Joy-Cons were compared to his hands. He's talking there. So I kind of foresaw it when they were talking on the panel that Alex turns to Vinny, he's all, yeah, show him your hands. And I was like, oh, this is my opportunity. So I took one of the Joy-Cons off of my Switch, and I walked up there and I handed it to him. I was like, oh, for, comparison. And then so he grabs it and he kind of holds it up to his hand, but then he does this whole like magic disappearing act with it, which is it was really cool at the time. It was pretty funny. Of course, somebody went and made an animated GIF of it, or GIF. I'm sorry, I said GIF. That's dumb. Somebody made an animated GIF of it, and of course, with an animated GIF, it runs on loop. So like if you watch that like past the first loop, you actually get to see him palm my Switch Joy-Con controller, in his other hand and stuff. So the illusion gets completely broken, but it was actually pretty impressive at the time. So yeah, I was actually like on the Giant Bomb panel for like a split second when
That's awesome.
when I handed Vinny my Joy-Con, and he made it disappear.
That was really funny.
Yeah, it was pretty dope. I thought it was good timing, and it worked out real. Luckily, it wasn't my Switch that Jeff Gersman stuck in his mouth. The kickstand. That was definitely something interesting. And then Dan Reichert put 3 3DS carts in his mouth because they got on the subject of the Switch carts tasting like garbage. Because Jeff Gersman was actually the one who discovered that trait of them. So it kind of the conversation went to that. So then the question was like, well, I wonder if the kickstand tastes funny. So one of the guys in the front row that I actually think was one of the VIPs for Giant Bomb handed Jeff Gersman his Switch, and Jeff Gersman stuck the kickstand in his mouth, which was pretty interesting. And then then the question came up whether or not the flavor thing had been in media all this time and nobody had ever actually tried it. So two guys brought up 3 3DS cartridges, and Dan Reichert stuck those in his mouth to see if they tasted funky, which of course they didn't. And then it was funny because then everyone's like offering up stuff. They're like, how about a UMD? And like, they're like, you have a UMD? And they're like, no dead media or obsolete media or something like that. And then somebody's like, well, how about a Vita cartridge? And somebody's like, no, they said no obsolete media. Which I thought was really funny. Yeah, it was good times. I did go to a bunch of panels. I went to an IGN panel. I went to the Kind of Funny panel. I went to the 404ing It panel, which is done by Pat Bear, where he gets his panelists together and they come up with a bunch of YouTube videos that like kind of make a theme, and they're all really funny and a really good time. Jeff Gerstmann was on that panel, which is funny because he was actually the last time he's only been on that panel twice, and the last time was at PAX South, which was the panel that I attended in San Antonio. So I got to see both 404ing It panels that Jeff Gerstmann was in. Then I went to the Giant Bomb panel. I went to the there was a panel for No Clip, Danny O'Dwyer's new company that he created once he left GameStop.
Yeah.
Damn, man, I'm just stumbling everywhere. That was pretty cool because it was their 6-month anniversary of the creation of that company. So he handed out balloons and birthday hats, little cone hats, which I actually ended up wearing for the whole rest of the day on the show floor, which was kind of cool. And everyone kept complimenting me on my hat. They're like, "Nice hat." I'm like, "Thanks." With no like justification for why I was wearing it, but it didn't matter because I was at PAX and nothing is shocking at PAX. There was lots of cosplay, lots of really good cosplay actually. It was a good time, all in all. And I think I've dominated enough of this podcast. So you guys go ahead and take over.
Oh man, I've
right.
always had like a dream just to go to a PAX and stuff like that because it's been like pretty much 10 years in the making for me. I'm pretty much the closest person that lives by a PAX, but because of the timing and when the tickets go on sale, I can't readily get them. I'm not usually fast enough because they don't really announce
they sell out really fast.
And that's
When they put them up. They put them up randomly without really telling anybody either, so it's very difficult to actually...
It's like two issues. It's like the ticket sales and also the transportation issues since I live like around, I don't know, like, I want to say like 2.5, 3 hours away from Seattle and stuff, and I can't really get there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. And like I said, I mean, the media badge kind of gave me a different perspective. That's something that, like, I mean, the PAX East badges probably sold out just about as fast as the PAX West badges sell out, you know, like within hours of going on sale. But, you know, getting an opportunity to have a media badge, you don't necessarily have to worry about that scarcity. As long as you can get approval for a media badge, then you are kind of free game.
Maybe try that one day.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be too hard, honestly. And then the nice thing is once you get it once, like, it's a lot easier to get it subsequently. It's the same with, like, E3 and stuff like that. Like, once you are a part of the system, like, it's a lot easier for you to get it subsequent years. So once you can break into that, it's able to be done.
Yeah.
And I got a media badge solely on credentials of podcasting, so it's not like I, you know, write a lot of articles and stuff like that. Just being a podcaster was enough enough credentials for me to get approved for a media badge. So
that's
nice.
Interesting.
There is hope.
It's like Tyler and I have been doing this podcast for like a couple of years and stuff, pretty much. So it's like maybe we should try to apply and try to get ourselves media badges.
What we got to lose other than our self-esteem?
Yeah, I mean, the worst case scenario is they say no. I mean, we applied for a panel as well on Proven Gamer, and we got denied on that, but we still got approved on media badges, so it was all good.
Nice. Yeah, I'll try that one of these years. But anyways, we are running a little long, so we're going to actually jump into, I think, what we've been playing this past week now. I'm going to go first real quick, because I'm going to keep mine short.
Go for it, man.
I'm still playing Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm like 18, 19 hours in at this point, and I'm only like a third of the way through. I looked to see how many quests there were, because I wanted to beat this game before Mass Effect comes out on Tuesday. And I looked to see where I was. I didn't like read spoilers or anything like that. I just kind of looked and read how many there were. And there's like 20 to 25 main quests, and I'm on like 8.
Oh no!
So yeah, I put like about 20 hours in this game, and I've just been doing a bunch of side shit. I'm loving that, but now I'm gonna just try to. I'm like my level system, like what are the recommended level for the stories I'm on, the story missions. I'm way higher than I need to be, so I'm just gonna kind of mainly focus on main story missions for the time being. But yeah, still enjoying that, having a lot of fun with that. But I tried to play Zelda last weekend. I played that for about 3 hours, and I have pretty much decided that I'm not disliking the game, but trying to play Horizon and Zelda like at the same time is damn near impossible. Just with the I'm not a big fan of the control scheme on Zelda, and also I'm like in Horizon, like a big thing to do is like a roll. They have like a dodge roll, like Dark Souls and stuff. And I constantly like find myself being hit in Zelda because I'm trying to do the dodge roll, and I'm like, oh, we don't have that in Zelda.
Well, you can actually do a dodge roll in that. It's something that pops up later. It kind of shows you got to be like Z triggered on people, and you can kind of like do a back shuffle, or you can do a side dodge. But yeah, I mean, it's a mechanic, but it's probably definitely not the same as it is on Horizon. So jumping back and forth between them would not be an easy task.
Yeah, like, well, it's like in Horizon, it's like just hit the circle button and you dodge. And this one, it's like I'm hitting the A button, and I'm like, that's not dodging at all.
Yeah, I know, definitely not.
So trying to learn and remember two fighting systems is not going well. So I'm going to put Zelda off to the side for a little while longer than I wanted to. But I just think I am buried in like games to play right now. First world problems. So, and I'm going to be... I got Danganronpa still sitting in the plastic here. I got two copies of Danganronpa. Yeah. I got 2 copies of Danganronpa sitting in plastic here. So, yeah. And then Mass Effect. So, it's going to be a bit before I probably get the Zelda. I think that's going to be a good, late April, May game for me. But half this podcast is playing that game right now, so I don't really, it don't really need me to be talking about it much more than that. But that's pretty much what's going on with me. Nothing really new to update. Still enjoying Horizon, and Zelda. I'll get to it eventually. I'm enjoying what I played, but just can't do it right now. But we're gonna go to Gables real quick. What have you been playing, buddy?
Well, on the gaming front, there's not too much left to update from last week. I've been playing a little bit of like Mega Man 3, which is on the Legacy Collection on the PS4. I have previously beaten the first 2 Mega Man games. Mega Man 3 is completely new to me, so I've been trying to delve into and see what Robo Master and stuff like that, what weapons are susceptible to the other, and it's kind of interesting going through certain stages because you can't really go through Mega Man 3 with the concept of doing it just blaster only. For some of the bosses, I kind of learned that the hard way. Was try to fight like Hard Man or something like that without having any other power-ups. So basically what I've done is I've gotten through all the Robot Masters. There's a lot of catchy music inside Mega Man 3 from Needle Man stage to Gemini Man and stuff. Those are some really catchy tunes in terms of like NES chip music. It also makes me realize like how awesome the NES was, just to try to for the developers to go forth and squeeze like so much quality like chiptune things out of that small like synthesizer thing that the NES had.
Yeah, I mean it's a testament that people are still using that as a musical tool. All these years, like they're just using the actual NES chipset to create music. So yeah, it's definitely a testament to the abilities of that.
I believe one of the better games that used that to its utmost ability is Castlevania 3. I mean, man, that you can almost get like a symphonic sort of like sound, like music just coming out from all the synthesized stuff and like Castlevania 3 and stuff. But for Mega Man 3, I think some of the hardest experiences I've actually gone through the game so far is going through, I believe it was, it was definitely like Magnet Man stage for a little bit because I kept on trying to do a little bit of the navigating the platforms. In certain Mega Man games where they're disappearing platforms and stuff, you gotta wait for timing and stuff. But inside this particular stage, there's certain variations of that where it implements like magnetism, where you have these little these electronic generators that just pull Mega Man off the platforms and stuff if you get too close to them. So you have to go at it at like a specific angle. But currently, I've gotten all the Robot Masters beaten, and there's a little twist to it. Once you defeat all the Robot Masters inside that, it doesn't immediately go to like a Wily stage effect like it would for the first 2. Instead, you have these 4 mystery like robots, but the catch is, inside each of these robots is a particular former Robot Master that you've beaten in the previous 2 Mega Man games. So my process now is to try to go through and beat those particular Robot Masters before going off to face Wily. So it's going to be an interesting change of pace, and I'm really liking Mega Man 3 so far. It's definitely better than the original, which, honestly, that's the first Mega Man game I've ever beaten. The original. It was definitely hard. It took me some bit of time, but I beat that now pretty regularly. That in the second game, so
So this whole like robot master within a robot, does that turn it into like a double boss battle where you have to fight the robot form before you can fight the robot master form?
Oh, well, let's see. For what I was... Well... when it comes to that robot master stuff... Oh, I'm there. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What about Troy?
I'm not sure. Troy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, that was weird.
All right.
Did you get my whole question or?
Yeah, I got your whole question, Troy. But
Okay.
let's see, the whole robot master within a robot master. It's kind of, it's what I'm basically trying to say is, it's sort of like Wily made these 4 robots that are basically sort of copycat robots, where they copy a specific ability from a past robot master, and so each of them have like a specific robot master like function. Like the one I was playing against the other night had Airman's ability from Mega Man 2. So you see the silhouette of the sprite of Airman coming down into the robot and stuff like that, and he shoots all these tornadoes at you, and you have to evade the same type of patterns.
Okay, so it's not like a double boss fight where you do one boss. Okay, cool.
No,
I'm just curious. That's just how it kind of sounded, and I haven't personally played it, so I wasn't familiar with it. But so it's basically the new bosses kind of take on the traits of bosses that you might be familiar with from previous. Cool.
I think it's a cool callback, a good Easter egg from the past couple games. So it's like,
Yeah, no doubt.
that's pretty much what I've been playing in a nutshell.
Very cool, man. What about you, Troy? I'm sure you've had a decent amount of time to play the Switch since you've been traveling.
Yeah, so Zelda is pretty much the only thing I've played, and I actually haven't played at all since I got back from PAX. But I mean, we're talking, long plane flights, 5, 6, 7 hours in the air and at the airport. So I definitely had a lot of time to play Zelda. So I probably, I want to say maybe about 15 to 20 hours into the game without having, hard data on it. And I haven't actually accomplished much at all in the game. I think I just now did the first major main quest point beyond the initial opening area where you have to go and get everything you need to be able to leave that great plateau. So yeah, I've only done the first main quest thing, but I've been caught up doing side quests and kind of just exploring. It's a really crazy game. There's a lot going on, a lot to do, a lot to see. You're finding stuff constantly, stuff that seems real innocuous at first glance, ends up being something crazy. They have the Kokoro seeds. The opportunities to find those kind of just pop up randomly. It's I think one of the first ones is I was up on top of this hill and there was these ruins, and it's well, here's I can't even remember what it was. I think it was pots or something. I picked up a pot and this dude pops up. He's like, "Hey, you found me. Here's a Kokoro seed," which was kind of interesting. And then I was on my way down the hill and I was looking into the water because the river's right there, and there's this circle of rocks that are sitting in the river, and I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. It was just these 4 or 5 rocks, maybe more, 5 or 6 rocks that are in a circular pattern just off the coast in the river there, off the banks. And then there were rocks, sitting on the edge of the bank, and I was like, well, this can't be a coincidence. So I grabbed one of the rocks and I threw it over, and sure enough, landed in the middle of this little circle of rocks, and that was something that triggered another Kokoro seed dude. And I was like, well, and it's super charming and really it made me giggle every time that would happen, which was actually really cool. Maybe didn't come across great to the people around me in the airplane when I'm giggling to myself, but it worked out well enough. Actually, the couple on one of my flights that was sitting next to me was super enthralled with the Switch. They said they got to try it out, and they were asking me a bunch of questions about it. The TSA agents at the El Paso airport were super enthralled with the Switch. They were asking me a bunch of stuff about it when they were searching my bags and stuff. The ones in Newark didn't seem to care at all, but of course there was a lot more people at the Newark airport than there were at the El Paso airport. But yeah, no, it's good times. Didn't really get much time. I think I did whip out the Switch in class on Wednesday because I was sitting in class and one of my classmates is there asking me, he's like, so how do you like that Switch? I was like, oh, it's really good. And I actually had it in my bag, so I pulled it out and I was like, here it is, and kind of fiddled around with Zelda for a little bit. He's like, oh, that's really cool. And then I showed him how you pull the Joy-Cons off and you put the kickstand on and you can play it with it on the table. And he's like, oh, that's really neat. I'll do the controllers vibrate. And I was like, oh yeah, check this out. Like I know I had posted in the group that I said hold my beer, but I didn't actually say that.
Yeah.
But it was just a really good situation. So yeah, then I fired up 1-2 switch and I fired up the ball counting mini game on that, and I was like, here, check this out. And he tried it out and he's like, oh my god, that's amazing. I was like, yeah. I was like, like just like do the controllers vibrate? Like yeah, they vibrate, and probably they'll vibrate like any other controller that you've ever had for most games, but there's a situation where this thing has HD rumble, which is a real thing, and the best way I can demonstrate it to you is through this mini game. And he was super impressed. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much been it for me, Zelda. I have not played in a couple days. Hopefully I'll get some time this week to play some games in general, just because it's spring break. I mean, I still got a lot to do, but I do have a little extra free time, so we'll see how it works out. Probably have more to report next week. But Zelda's a great game. Amazing. Like I said, 20 hours in, and I probably only scratched the surface. I think I've just been introduced to the concept of the dungeons, but I am nowhere near even approaching my first dungeon, so there's still a ways to go in that game.
Nice. Yeah, I did find that one party talking about the rocks. That's literally, I got to the second tower there, and that's as far as I've gotten. So I've done like 6 shrines. So that's you probably have a good idea where I'm at then.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so not very far, obviously. But anyways, speaking of actually, we're gonna kind of go on into the news, but it's been some kind of, I guess, news with the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo has announced they're going to double production for it, and so try to make it a little more easier to find. A lot of people, obviously, with the new console coming out, it's been hard to find. People like Gables here trying to get one. A lot of other people too.
Poor Gables.
Yeah, poor guy. We gotta get him a Switch. I found one online. I had it in my shopping cart, Gables, and I was gonna buy it and have it shipped to your house. And I went to go. I got to the part where you put your information in, and then when I went to go buy it, it wouldn't let me buy it. So I was minutes away from having one for you. But anyway, so Nintendo initially wanted to sell about 5 million in the first year, from March of this year to the end of March next year. Their goal was 5 million. They've actually doubled that. They planned on, I think, shipping 8 million in that first year, but they've now doubled that, where they hope to sell. The goal was to sell 10 million, and they plan to ship about 16 million, which obviously that's good news if you're doubling your goal 3 weeks into your not even 3 weeks into your console being out. But I'm happy that they're increasing production. But part of me wonders if this is like all a publicity stunt. Like I'm sure they had a decent idea what the numbers are going to be, especially after January with the reveal. And I'm wondering if this is like, oh, it's selling way more than we thought. It's way better than we thought. Like they're going like, shoot for under, like go below what you think it's actually going to be. Better to exceed expectations than not. Especially with the Wii U, I can understand why they did that. But if truly is the case, that's way more than they thought it would be. I'm happy. Obviously we want Nintendo to do well. And I hope it's a lot easier to find. I'm glad it doesn't sound like it's going to be a Wii case, where that legitimately was a surprise, I think, to everybody how popular that thing was. But yeah, I don't know. I'm happy that this sounds like this thing will be a lot easier to find, especially as we get into the fall. More people will have it out there that really want it.
Yeah, no doubt. I think, your whole thing about whether or not they actually knew that this was going to be the issue or not, I think it's probably a little both. I think they definitely, want to underproduce just to make sure that there's no surprises. Maybe they had expectations or an estimate, and then they felt that, that their original estimate was probably conservative but realistic. And then, maybe the demand actually ended up being way more than they anticipated, which has caused them to double production, which is good as long as they can sell through them. But I mean, they wouldn't choose to double production unless they were fairly certain that they were going to be able to sell through those in a fairly decent amount of time. So yeah, it's definitely a good sign.
Yeah. Especially with it, this is like this is pretty much the hottest time it's ever going to be for owning a Switch, is when it first comes out. So, and then probably again around when Mario comes out. So now would be the perfect time to have more of them out there, and especially have a bunch out there in the wild for the Christmas season and Mario. So, what about you, Gables? Are you excited you have a better chance now of getting a Switch? Gables is not here. He must have walked away. That son of a bitch. Damn you, Gables.
Right?
Well, you know what? We're not waiting for him. We're going to move on. Fuck it. Next up, so we talked about last week with the Xbox Game Pass, having Xbox One, Xbox 360 games on it for $10 a month. Sony has countered that with PS4. With PS4 games going to be available later on, sometime this year, under the PlayStation Now subscription. I think that's is that $20 a month for that?
I'm not certain offhand.
I think it's like
give me just a
$20 a month, or you can get like 3 months for like $40. I think there's like a discount if you buy it like in a bunch at a time.
Oh yeah,
Probably should have looked this up for me.
This doesn't actually show. I was clicked on the link that you had in the thing.
Yeah, it doesn't price it. Here we go. I'm looking it up.
That's what editing's for.
Yeah. So you can get it for $100 a year, or $20 a month, or $45 for 3 months. So holy shit, that's expensive. But yeah, I think it's the smart thing to do, and it's really something probably that should have been there in the beginning. But especially with Xbox, like I think the Game Pass like totally one up them, and I still think it's probably the better of the two services. Obviously, it's cheaper in price, but I think it might be a case where it's like, it's cool right now, but it's maybe too little, too late to have this in there. What about you?
So the cool thing about this is that this basically makes it so that you can play PlayStation 4 games on the PC.
Holy shit, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So, like, if you wanted to play Uncharted or The Last of Us or any of these games on your PC, now is an opportunity. So, I think this is more of a counter, practically more of a counter to Xbox's Play Anywhere campaign that they have, where you buy a game and you get both the Xbox and the PC copy of it. This basically almost practically makes a lot of that, the case for the PlayStation games, where you were able to play PlayStation 4 games on your PC. I mean, this is also different in that it's a streaming service, versus the Xbox Pass, where you actually download the games and play them on rotation. This probably also will have PS4 games on rotation. Like, you won't have like the entire catalog, and they'll rotate games in and out. Yeah, I mean, all this is crazy because like the whole time, and we had this discussion, right, about the Sega channel. I think it was my first episode when we actually talked about it. So this is all like that coming full circle, basically. All these console manufacturers like making these subscription services that give you access to a rotating list of games. It's all kind of real interesting. But yeah, that's the thing that my big takeaway from this is that now, like, this basically opens up the opportunity to play Sony exclusive games on the PC, which actually probably gets me closer to a console-less future. Already I'm leaning away from having another Xbox because most of the main Xbox games I can play on PC, and I've got a pretty good PC. So if I was able to forego having a PlayStation Plus subscription and buying a new PlayStation console, and instead just pay whatever the PlayStation Now subscription is and be able to play all the PlayStation games on my PC, that almost makes that a super awesome proposition, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's I didn't think about that. It definitely does. The landscape of gaming as we know it is going to be an interesting. I mean, I wonder. I mean, obviously, like, I doubt like a game like Horizon is going to be on there anytime soon. But I mean, if you are patient enough to wait a year to play it, you can probably just play it on there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it'd be in their best interest to delay, like a brand new game, especially a big game like Horizon. Keep it from going on there too quickly. But I mean, yeah, it just seems like that would be a very good opportunity, and who knows, like if it comes to the point where there's a high demand there, then they may end up pushing them out pretty close to day and date. If it turns out that they can be just as profitable for them to have those games on that service as quickly as possible. I don't know how the profit of this versus selling physical copies of games, or doing so concurrently, or if there will be any cannibalism of sales. I'm willing to bet that a lot of people on PlayStation wouldn't be willing to forego. Well, I don't know. That'd be a tough one. Like, forego buying a copy of the game, versus just playing it, through the PlayStation Now service. Yeah, you'd probably see a delay for sure. At least a 6 or 7 month delay, I bet, before a new game would hit. It may be even up to a year. For some games, just to try and maximize the actual sales of the copies. versus the streaming, because I mean then they've got to give money to the developer and stuff like that, and then they'd have to kind of compensate for lost revenue that way, which would probably be pretty expensive for Sony to do, especially for games that aren't first party.
Yeah, no, the reason, I don't know, the only thing that would scare me off from right now looking at it, and obviously things can change towards the end of this console generation, but it's just the whole streaming part of it. Like, I understand internet's getting a lot better than, and it's going to be a lot better 3-4 years from now than it is right now, but that's why I like the idea of the Xbox Game Pass, where I don't think there's going to be as many games that I want to play.
Yeah.
Because there's not as many exclusive games of the Xbox
But
One.
the ability to have the game saved onto your system rather than streaming over the internet.
Yeah, which if I could play, imagine I might be able to play that game offline. Maybe, I'm wondering. Maybe not. Maybe not with Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, I bet you. I bet you would. Yeah, I mean it's saved locally. There may just be like a thing where it has to check back in with the server after a certain amount of time just to verify that that's even still available on the service, because games will be rotated out on a regular basis. But they'll probably kind of have an idea of when that game's supposed to fall off, and maybe it'll check back with the server periodically to make sure that that's still. But I would imagine you'd be able to, for instance, if your internet just crapped out on you, you'd probably, I would imagine, hopefully still be able to play those games.
Yeah,
who knows? But yeah, no, I definitely get you on the streaming part. My internet here is not great, and I don't imagine that a service like this would work very well with the internet that I've got currently. So that's not something that I would be doing now. But maybe once I get to a place that has decent internet, that might be a feasible option.
Yeah, it's good. Like I said earlier, it's good. This is much bigger than I actually initially thought of it as. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the next few years is going to be interesting as far as gaming goes. We might have all our games in one place, and that place might be our computer.
Yeah.
Outside of Nintendo. Gables, are you back?
Well, thinking about the whole streaming thing from the PS4 games and stuff like that for streaming purposes. Yeah, it's a good option or something for the people who want it. Though personally, I don't really feel like I would make much use of it. Kind of like the same situation with Troy and stuff. My current internet thing is not great. I don't like the idea of streaming my games because there's always the chance of me not getting the best type of frame rate or type of graphical fidelity that I may want in terms of maybe having the game downloaded that's digital or possibly physical disc or something like that. So it's nah, it really doesn't affect me too much at all.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. Has everybody got a chance to check out the Sonic Force gameplay reveal?
I did see that.
Huh.
So I'm kind of curious here. Are we hopeful that we might get a good Sonic game in 2017?
So I mean, I don't know who the target market for this game is. So what is this game? You're basically, I mean, it's like the 3D Sonic games of yore, right? Where you're basically you're running full speed. It's almost like an endless runner in some fashion, sort of, right? Because you're just running as fast as you can, kind of dodging obstacles, jumping when it's appropriate, and I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me at all. I was thinking when I was watching this, first of all, it was kind of real dark compared to what I'm used to for Sonic. I think it's it looks like he's in the middle of a war zone or something, or I don't know, some crazy calamities going on around him. Explosions.
Shit's being blown up.
Yeah, but just mechanically, it doesn't look. It looks real shallow. There's not a lot of mechanics in play there, and I mean, there's only so much you can do with the whole speed thing. You're running down a tunnel. I mean, it's almost, I guess, similar to Wipeout or something at that point, where it's you're just kind of trying to memorize a track and avoid obstacles, and it just no.
Yeah, I was hopeful with this one. I'll admit, growing up, I had a Sega Genesis. I played a lot of Sonic, but I was never really a big Sonic fan. I played a handful of them since the Genesis era has kind of ended with Sonic Adventures 2, Secret of the Rings, or I think is what it was, on Wii. Even played that crappy one for the Wii U, just because I was curious how bad it really was, and it's really bad. And a few other things as well, but it seems like they know the Sonic games haven't been very good, and it just seems like every few years or so, be like, this is finally we figured out Sonic, or like we're changing, we're gonna do. It's like a bad relationship where it's like, I promise I'll change kind of thing, and it's like, okay, like imagine like Sonic fans are like, okay, I'll take you back, and then it's just like they don't change at all, or the things they do change, the things you don't want them to change. And I just sit there and watch them like, this looks like the same goddamn game they've been making since Adventures 2 on the Dreamcast. It's like, and I understand that game has its fans, but you look at every other Sonic game that's been made since then, they've all been garbage and everybody hates them, and they keep making those games. I'll admit that I think the town, all the other things going on around it look really cool, but just watching the gameplay itself, like, this looks terrible. This looks like Sonic 06. This looks like what's that one with the medieval one that came on the Wii that was terrible?
Black Knight.
Black Knight, yeah. It's just, I don't understand like what the hell Sega's doing. Like, I understand it's Sonic, it's going to sell some copies, but I just don't, like, I feel bad for the fans of Sonic, because, and if you like him, I guess I'm happy for you, but you hear every time a Sonic game comes out and it's like everybody hates it. It's like, I don't understand how they keep doing this to their fans and to themselves. Like, I imagine they're just going to be miserable making that game. What about you, Gables?
Well, to answer your question, Tyler, I believe the best Sonic game in 2017 will probably be Sonic Mania, even though it's delayed to the summer. But at the same point, Sonic Forces, from what little I've actually seen in the gameplay trailer, it does give me the sort of vibe that I probably am not going to even bother playing the game. Especially since it does give me some bad little flashbacks or something to maybe Sonic 06, maybe some of the bits of the other 3D Sonic games that have been there in the past and stuff. I mean, I've tried to play certain 3D Sonic games. I did play the GameCube port of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and stuff for a time. I tried playing bits of that, but it's just like it's an acquired taste for some people. Some people really love to play those type of 3D Sonic games, from like Sonic Unleashed to the Secret Rings. Obviously, it's a mixed bag. I got Sonic Lost World. I've played some of that for the Wii U, and it's not that bad. Sonic Colors is pretty decent, I think. But when it comes to this game and stuff, it's kind of like the same old Sonic cycle, where it's like, hey, we'll promise you new things. Like, oh, hey, maybe this game is not so good, or something. Game comes out, gets middling reviews. Oh, hey, yeah, this is a game. Or here's a popular thing for Sonic fans. Say they incredibly like a game or something like that, then all of a sudden they just nonchalantly hate it for no apparent, not like no apparent reason, but suddenly they pick a random Sonic game from the past, they just start hating heavily on it and saying that's probably one of the worst games, and then, having the new one be like, okay, let's go ahead and just call that one of the better games that's come out for the Sonic series. The Sonic fan base in general, to be perfectly honest, it's a mixed bag. I mean, there's some honest, good, diehard fans, and then there are the extremists that just really hate almost upon every single thing. Like, not every single thing, but like, they really love the 3D ones, they don't really care about the 2D ones, and it's just a really weird fan base, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's going to be no different when Sonic Forces comes out, and probably, I'm thinking, may receive middling reviews at best, if it's that weird of a game.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of been a track record now for the past 10, 15 years with Sonic games. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I think if this game Metacritic reviews is higher than a 75, I think they'll be happy with that. I'm just looking at this 45 seconds of gameplay, but that 45 seconds is enough for me to like, yeah, they ain't doing shit about, they ain't changing anything. And I honestly have my doubts that Sonic Mania will be any good. That's the one they're kind of making it's going back to its roots. But I remember like they did the same thing like 6 years ago with Sonic the Hedgehog 4, and that game was terrible. Like, if you can't make the thing that made you popular good, I don't know what you can do at this point.
And then after that point, they made a game like Sonic Generations, that was actually pretty decent from what I've understood.
Yeah, I heard Colors and Generations were pretty good. Not great, but good. But I mean, how many Sonic games they've released over the last 20 years since really Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and how many of them you heard that are actually playable? And that's the thing on top of it. Like, these games are bad, and a lot of times these games are also really badly broken too.
I mean, Sonic as a character and an IP has a lot of potential. It definitely, in its day, was huge. I mean, they took on Nintendo and Mario, and they succeeded. They were able to kind of portray a sense of speed and color that wasn't. Is a pretty stark contrast to Mario and Nintendo. Kind of an edginess, that kind of flew in the face of Nintendo's kind of squeaky clean reputation and image. And that did well in the 16-bit era, and I think those 2D side-scrolling Sonic games, they displayed speed and everything like that in a really good way, and that was kind of good for them. But the problem is I don't think Sonic translates very well to 3D, because then you end up almost like on rails, and you're just kind of like dodging things here, there. Sonic's kind of a one-trick pony. Speed is what he's got, so if you don't have a whole lot of options to mess around with that. Mario, yeah, he's maybe slow or whatever, but he's got so many other options. I mean, you can strap a water cannon on his back, and suddenly you've got a completely new mechanic, a bunch of different things like that. Sonic just hasn't aged well. He's kind of a one-trick pony, and that one trick has kind of gotten stale. Even the side-scrolling ones, it's like you're just kind of rehashing, old things, old concepts, and that's tough. I think the IP and the character still have a lot of clout, but I think they're probably more suited to a cartoon. And I've heard the Sonic Boom cartoon's actually really popular and not bad, but maybe Sonic just isn't cut out for video games anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you for the most part, and you took a lot of the words out of my mouth that I wanted to say about it. But with being the one-trick pony, but you look at, like, who would have thought 30 years ago playing Super Mario Brothers, that eventually you'd be playing a game like Galaxy or Sunshine or anything like that. I think part of it works out in the end that Mario didn't really have. There wasn't really a trick to it. There wasn't really anything. They didn't have it. There was no gimmick to Mario. And I guess maybe not strapping that gimmick to it is what allows you to do a lot of creative things, and maybe that's why they were kind of stuck in the situation where with Sonic. But it might just be one of the, like you said, it might be a game of its era. And that era, unfortunately, ended 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. But let's move on to, I think, what will be our last topic. Talked about it a week or two ago about Outlast 2 being, or Outlast being one of our favorite games probably over the course of this show's lifetime. But Outlast 2 has been banned. It's coming out next month, I should say. It has been banned in Australia. There are minor spoilers for the game. I guess I read about why it got banned. And not to go too deep into it, there is a scene where a rape happens. So that was enough for it to be banned from the entire country. I don't really know how we want to jump into this whole thing. I mean, to me in 2017, the fact that we're still completely banning games. Like, I understand, like, games in, like, Germany, like, being banned, or, like, big changes made to it, and they have, like, the swastika and stuff into it. Like, I get that part of it. That's a thing you don't really want to deal with, and you want to kind of separate yourself from quite a bit. But I think it's weird in this era with digital games and downloading games. It's not that hard to get these games nowadays. So why go through the trouble of banning games and doing the things they're doing at this point?
That's kind of the way. I mean, Australia has been this way for quite some time. I mean, they definitely have a history of banning and or requiring heavy modifications to games. I mean, Saints Row had the dildo bat that they determined had far too many veins on it, so it had to be turned into something flat and not nearly as detailed in the Australian version of the game. Plenty of other games that have been kind of controversial. Games like a GTA. I don't know if GTA has ever actually flat out been banned, but definitely heavy restrictions on content, like having to be pretty heavily edited to be released in Australia. It wasn't until recently that they even had this R18 rating that was available. Right. So any game that would have normally gotten this R18 rating was just flat out not allowed to be sold in Australia. So I mean, this is kind of par for the course for Australia, and I mean, I guess sexual assault is beyond the scope of their R18 rating. I find it hard to fault them. I mean, it sucks. I mean, if you're in Australia and you have any want to play these games, I mean, games are extra expensive in Australia. Like, it costs way more than it does here to even purchase a game. Even if it is available, in Australia, and then you have to deal with the government, deciding that this game isn't worth selling, and I mean that sucks. It does, but I mean I'm kind of in two departments on this. Maybe the government shouldn't necessarily dictate, and maybe the rating should reflect the content of the game, like it would here, but I mean, sexual assault's kind of a rough thing to handle, for certain people.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Maybe it's just because we're the United States. We are pretty much there's so much shit thrown at us. We can easily find anything we want or buy anything we want around here, no matter what your age is. Really, I can go at 12. Remember buying Grand Theft Auto 3. For the Xbox, and nobody even questioned that. I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of we're in a different area, way different area than Australia. So just kind of looking at their customs and that, it's that's just really weird to us. But I don't know. I'm just kind of surprised that they're still kind of this strict about. And then obviously they leaned back a little bit with the whole R18 thing, and they actually have 6 different groups for sexual sex things to do with sex, violence, drug use. They have a 1 through 5 rating on everything.
Yeah.
So on top of having the R18, also has a 1 through 5 kind of scale on how crazy they might be. Saints Row 3 was actually I was reading about in the article, they talk about was banned originally because they used drugs was used as kind of a boost sort of thing. Stick of Truth, actually they had 7 different cutscenes or parts of cutscenes that had to be completely taken out of the game.
Yep.
Because they were too violent, or the themes of it was too much for their ratings. I don't know. Like I said, it's just it's a tough one to kind of talk about, just because I think it's I understand they have different rules and laws and customs than we do, but it's just I don't know. I feel I guess on that same point though, it should be probably not as big as a deal there with the internet being the way it is. I don't know how good the internet in Australia is, but I imagine if you live in a bigger area there, you could probably fairly easily still get this game.
Yeah, or at least get the gist of what it is. You may not be able to download the game. I mean, for PC, I guess, yeah. Consoles, I imagine it's a lot more difficult. Yeah. I mean, you may be able to import games. I'm sure they don't search as it's coming through, across the border or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, I mean, it's, especially being in America, it amounts to quote unquote censorship. It definitely is censorship, if the government's deciding that this can't be, sold or distributed in the country. But I mean, I get the feeling when a lot of this stuff, when this stuff comes up like this, and even the German thing, I feel like a bigger deal is made of it in places like America than it is actually made in the country where it actually happens.
That's probably, that's true.
They're not nearly as affected by it as we feel like they we feel they should feel like they are. You know what I mean? For them, it's yeah, this is par for the course. This is how things are done. This is how it's always been done. We deal with it. And whereas in America, coming from the way we're used to things being here, we're outraged for them, basically, is what it kind of almost amounts to. But yeah, I mean, and like I said, in this particular instance, it's hard to come out and push against it, especially being sexual assault is something that's that's a tough subject to to come out. If you're if there's any instance of like I am against this concept of, I mean, the censorship is one thing, yeah, but it's like how dare you ban this game because of rape? And it's like, well, yeah, rape's really bad, so you almost come across as pro rape in some weird way, so it feels kind of creepy either way.
Yeah. It's a very touchy subject, all in all. And I mean, what you were saying earlier, I know a lot of people like reading reports and like kind of reading about Australia and how other places work with like their video games. A lot of people would actually, before the age of the internet and digital games, they would actually get import them from New Zealand.
There you go.
And pay. It's like a game there is like $100 American.
Yeah. And that's normal price
crazy.
If you went into like EB Games to buy a game.
Yeah, so paying an import price and everything from New Zealand. If you want to be a gamer in Australia, you got to be very dedicated. And then also, I guess, I mean, if you had a PS4 and you wanted to buy this game, you could probably just make it an American account or something. Or an account
there's probably ways to work around that. I don't know how the internet works, though. They may be able to like block IP stuff. But I mean, if things work the way they do here in America, where you can easily set up a Japanese account and order Japanese games sort of thing, then yeah. But the internet in different countries kind of doesn't always work exactly the way it does here in America. So, there may be some governmental restrictions on that sort of thing. But, I mean, yeah, ostensibly, like, if you absolutely want the game, you should be able to get your hands on it. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's probably less of a deal to them than what we kind of feel like it should be, just because we're not used to these sort of government restrictions on things.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not really mad about it. I'm just kind of like still perplexed.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal when stuff like this happens, And I mean, it kind of hits the news way more rarely. Like I said, especially since they have this new R18 rating, where it's like, well, it's not nearly as prevalent as it used to be. Where back in the day, like a lot of games were either forced to be heavily censored or just not released at all. So I mean, it's gotten better for them, I guess, relatively speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Gables? You got anything you want on this one?
I'm not a fan of censorship, really. I mean, I don't like the idea of like a artist's work or something like that being like heavily censored because of certain reasons or another. I mean, there are particular topics and issues and stuff that I feel that are very sensitive, and perhaps judging upon maybe what the content inside Outlast 2 to prohibit these bans in Australia and stuff, it's more or less like we pretty much wouldn't know unless we actually played the game ourselves and stuff and see what context it was. From what I've come to understand, it's like insinuating like rape against a male character, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
To be perfectly honest and stuff like that, that's just something that's normally a part of like some media stuff. I don't like it, to be perfectly honest, but that's just the thing, though. There are just some media stuff where there are some that, when it's not... trying to form the words here. My mind's kind of like thinking of a couple different things at the moment. There have been portrayals of rape inside other types of media stuff, from music to movies to books and stuff. But when it comes to video games, a lot of those certain things happen to be, say, banned in other types of countries. Either it prohibits some certain things and stuff. Odds are, I don't really like the concept of like rape inside media at all, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there are delicate ways to handle that type of issue and stuff. To be perfectly honest, Australia is a country. They can do pretty much what they want to do in terms of what they prohibit, what their citizens can do. But at the same point... oh, well, you know what? At this same point and stuff, I just don't really... Man, it's just really hard for me just to try to comprehend this issue in general and stuff, because I'm sort of dancing on a delicate line and stuff. It's like, you know what? It's just hard to me just to try to formulate stuff. I don't like rape at all. I know how demoralizing it can be for some particular people. I have never experienced it. I hope I never have to experience that, or never have any friends or family that do go through that type of systematic traumatization which it leads to people. But to try to
play a game where maybe the main character is raped or something like that, that personally, from a moral perspective, that's something I will probably never play. But from other people and stuff, that's their choice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to insinuate my thoughts and opinions and complete as something as a whole. So it's like, I feel that for gamers in Australia and stuff, if they want to play that game and stuff, they should have the option to. I don't think that Australia should ban the game because of just one or two particular issues that one or two people feel like it's not good for everyone. It's really up to the individual person itself, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, that's us,
Yeah.
Coming at it from an American, frame of mind for sure. You know, we're used to not having the government, be able to. And I mean, there's precedent, with the whole like rap music in the 90s and stuff where they tried to ban, Two Live Crew and stuff like that. There's precedent that the government doesn't have the right to tell us what we can and can't consume. But yeah, they just definitely don't necessarily have that same mindset in other countries.
That's very true.
Yeah. But to awkwardly move away from that, I think that's going to wrap up the show for the week.
Tiptoe away from the
Without inciting a full-on riot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a touchy subject. It sure is, And like I said, censorship in general is a bad thing, especially coming from an American state of mind. But then, rape is also a very bad thing.
Yes.
So, like I said, it's kind of and even Gables is like it's a tight line that you're trying to balance. To say censorship is bad, but also rape is bad because I'm definitely not pro rape. Like it's kind of a weird situation.
Hey, most
maybe
definitely.
Maybe a bad example to have this serious discussion with.
True. Yeah, I might pick one of the worst cases for this. We should have just talked about Saints Row 3 and their Vady dildos. But anyways, want to thank you guys so much for listening this week, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and the awkward walking the fine line on a blade. We just had the last 20 minutes. But anyways, if you guys want to hear more from us, and hopefully you do, we're on Facebook. We have a page and group called Drunk Dash Nerds Podcast, so like and follow us on there. On Twitter, we are at Drunk Nerds Pod. Follow us on there as well. It's usually the best place to go when the show is out. That's usually one of the first places it pops up on to find the link to the show. On YouTube, we're Drunk Dash Nerds, so subscribe to us on there. The podcast also goes up on there, so if you can subscribe and hit the like button, it'd be really appreciated. And then also on Twitch, we are Drunk Nerds Podcast, so follow us on there.
Yes.
Yeah. Follow. Yeah.
Yes.
Sweet. Got it.
Follow.
Right. Yeah. I'm good. By episode 300, I'm gonna have it.
It's gonna flow like butter.
Yeah. God damn, I want some butter right now. Actually, like some butter toast.
Butter.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. I was your host. I was Tyler.
I'm Troy.
And this has been Colonel Gables.
I really want some butter toast with like some cinnamon on it right now.
That sounds really good.
Oh god damn it! I might just go do that right now. Big glass of milk.
So until next week, everybody.
Bye.
Peace out.
Cinnamon toast. Excuse me. You too many beers there. Anyways, we're on iTunes now, so go on there, check us out, and if you like us, leave us a review, and we'll even shout you out. And Jack will send you his credit card number.